Hey everyone, Harry here. Wednesday, you could call it day one of Trump 2.0. So many big developments and discussions that emerge from Trump's victory. In many ways, improbable. In many ways, the most sort of stunning political comeback story in American history. After having literally waged insurrection and resisted the lawful transfer of power to be reinserted in the White House by the American people 4 years later. We'll be doing 360s with our heads for a while, and this will be the stuff for historians to tackle for decades. But I'll be covering with these YouTube some major immediate stories that just emerge naturally from the results of the election. So let's start here. A lot of speculation is Trump completely off the hook with the 4 criminal cases that are technically pending against him. And the short answer, I would say, is yes. But let me explain and sort of trudge through them. Okay, remember, the January 6th case for the insurrection itself and everything that preceded it. In another world, that's already proceeded to trial and conviction. But in this world, the Supreme Court intervened, gave Trump 9 months of delay, and that delay is going to be effectively the death knell of the case, as I'll explain in a moment. And then the Mar-a-Lago case, a very strong cut and dried case with sentencing under the guidelines of over 10 years, likely when you look at the way sentences in other cases have gone. And there Trump had a very improbable good break for him of a judge who was happy to be in the tank firm and do everything she could to stall or rule in his favor or remonstrate the Department of Justice. And now the bad guys get rewarded in so many different ways, including Judge Eileen Cannon, who knows what her future in the Trump second administration holds. But that, again, should have, with a different judge, proceeded to conviction. Now it never will. And why is that? Because both these cases are still live within the federal court system. There's a very strong division between cases that are final, and final means you've gone through the trial or the guilty plea or whatever, and you've gone through your appeals, including the final recourse of a petition for cert to the U.S. Supreme Court. If you go that far, as Trump surely would, and the court denies cert, then and only then, really a couple weeks after that, is your conviction final. And until it's final, it's just a case on the DOJ docket. And even without sort of extraordinary and untoward theories of White House intervention in DOJ business and principles of non-political decision-making by the DOJ, which presumably are now completely on the chopping block. Even before those, it was pretty accepted that a president who is the head of the executive branch can simply instruct the Department of Justice, this pending case, drop it. And that is what's going to happen here. Trump already has said he would fire Jack Smith in 2 seconds. And by the way, when he said it, he actually cited the Supreme Court's immunity decision, meaning he knows that even if it would be considered wrong or even criminal, it doesn't matter because he has that in his back pocket. And irony, and really worse, an irony and a tragedy, that the court, which advanced this principle so that presidents could be nimble and bold to take actions that you want them to do, ostensibly now, in fact, it will be an empowering principle for Trump to do whatever the hell he feels like, knowing that there's no possible criminal implication. So those 2 most important cases, he simply instructs the Attorney General to drop. the DOJ goes into court the next day and announces, Your Honor, we are withdrawing these cases. Mr. Trump is free to go. A whole big question will remain, and we'll get to this elsewhere, about all his co-conspirators, charged or otherwise. There are some charged, for example, in the Mar-a-Lago case. Trump could pardon those, or he could also instruct those to just go away. Trump could, presumably on those as well, just instruct DOJ to close up shop, and they would. So those two biggest, most important cases, most important not simply because they pose real penalties and accountability, but they really are just high water marks of Trump's iniquity as a president in trying to stage an insurrection, and his iniquity as a candidate and a person on the political scene, thinking that anything he wants to do, including take national security documents, be careless with them, show them to whom he likes, for that as well, there'll be no accountability. Okay, what does that leave? The two state prosecutions, one in New York, where he's been convicted on 34 counts and sentencing is scheduled for November 26th. One in Fulton County, which is in the deep mothballs as the Georgia appellate court decides whether to recuse Fani Willis's entire office. And there are also cases, state elector cases, that he figures in and he could be added to potentially. Point number one for those cases, while it's not a current part of the legal landscape, I think we can expect that it will be, and on his motion. In fact, there's already reporting that his lawyers are preparing to bring this soon, that a state government just cannot incapacitate or subject to criminal penalties a sitting president. That strikes me as a proper principle, even as galling as it might seem, given the personnel involved, but the operation of the federal government could be completely compromised if the state of here, New York, could just come and put the president in the pokey. You just can't do that. So I think, and by analogy to other cases the Supreme Court has done, I think what we can expect is a principle that says these are suspended while he is president. So that leaves, at most, the possibility that a New York sentence, which I think could be a couple months of incarceration and a long probation, would begin after Trump leaves office for years in January of 2028. But so much can happen between now and then. He is already dead set on exacting retribution against Alvin Bragg. He has ways to, I think, try to push back. So that, I think, is a tangible prospect that's still out there for a short sentence in 2028, but a lot can happen between now and then. I think Fulton County is effectively a dead letter. And I think he will be able to fight hard against being added to other state prosecutions, though it's possible. Again, though, they would await any kind of actual moving forward for when he would leave the presidency. So, I've written about this, and basically what I said, I stand by. This is a president who made of his presidency a crime spree, of his presidency and post-presidency, a crime spree. And he's going to get away with either 96% of it or the whole kit and caboodle. That depends on what works out in 2028 in New York. Now, there are some important civil cases out there, and I'll do a separate YouTube sometime soon about how those will work. But for the criminal stuff, he has, in improbable fashion, succeeded in making them basically all go away or go away nearly completely by virtue of having won the election yesterday. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.